Part vampire, part lichen. Underworld Blood Wars stars Kate Beckinsale, Theo James, and is directed by Anna Forster. Alright guys, first off, let me preface this review by stating that I am a massive Underworld fan. I love these movies, but I know what I'm getting myself into. These are not the type of films that are completely cerebral, Citizen Kane if you will. No, these are fun, popcorn, shoot 'em up action movies. Much like the Resident Evil series. Both of those franchises are very similar. But I am just a massive Underworld fan. I love the character of Selene. I love Kate Beckinsale. She does an awesome job in this movie. So anyway, with that said, let's get into this review. Now first off, after the rating, I want to talk about some spoilers because there are so many twists and turns in this movie. So you're fine up until the rating, but then after the rating, you're going to want to leave unless you have already seen Underworld Blood Wars. So you have been warned. So in the beginning of Underworld Blood Wars, Selene is on the run. The vampires are after her, as well as the lichens. She is really alone. The only help she really has is David, played by Theo James. And both clans, they don't want to kill her, they need her blood because she has blood from Alexander Corvinus, if you remember from Underworld Evolution. And so if you have that blood, then you have all power, and that's what they want. And really that's as far as I can go without giving you guys any spoilers because this movie is just consumed with plot twists, almost too many of them. But let me just tell you what I liked about the movie. And actually, I love a lot of the things in this movie. It's crazy that it's currently ranked at like 17% on Rotten Tomatoes. But if you look on Rotten Tomatoes, you can see that all the Underworld films are rated really low. So I wasn't really scared by that rating. I still was gonna go see this. Huge fan of the series. Now first off, let me just say, if you are new to the Underworld series, you do not wanna watch this one first. You wanna go back and you wanna watch at least the first two and then Awakening. You can skip Rise of the Lycans, really, because that's just a prequel. And also, let me just say, if you are a fan of the Underworld series, if you love that whole three elders leapfrogging through time to preserve the vampire coven, you're gonna like this movie. This movie actually reaches back into the previous Underworld films and tries to explain a lot of things that might not have been fully fleshed out beforehand, and offers some new territory, actually. And the first thing I really wanna talk about is Kate Beckinsale and the character Selene is without a doubt the best part of this movie. She kicks so much ass, and really she is the bread and butter of the Underworld series. She jumps right into that character without thinking. She knows Selene back and front, and she doesn't hold back in this movie. She still carries that Selene mantle with flying colors. And this is probably the most vulnerable that we've seen Selene out of all the movies. She really has to deal with a lot of the issues that she's had in the past. Also, every Underworld movie has always talked about this big battle between the vampires and the lichens. And this movie has that. It actually has a huge battle between the two near the end of the movie. And it's a really kick-ass battle. It's really graphic. It doesn't hold back. There's a lot of blood. There's a lot of guts. There's a lot of gore. So it's definitely going to satisfy your Carnage candy needs. Now, one thing I really loved about this movie that is a new element to the whole story is the Nordic Coven. They spend probably the first quarter of the movie in the Old World Coven, and then Selene has to go to the Nordic Coven, which is kind of an Arctic type area for the vampires, and it's secluded so they are safe from the lichens, because the lichens, they can't deal with cold like vampires can. From this point in the movie, this is where a lot of the plot twists come into play. And there, like I said, there's a lot of them. And without going into any spoilers, you will find out what happens with the daughter Eve and Michael. Now, as far as any cons, you can tell that this movie was done on a budget because some of the CGI is pretty damn shaky. It is obviously CGI, especially the lichens. I actually like the look of the lichens in the first movie because they were practical. They used real suits, and there's very little, if any, of that in this movie. It's all computer effects, and it does stick out like a sore thumb. But overall, guys, I really enjoyed the hell out of this. I was really shocked. I didn't think I would love it that much, but I'm gonna give it a purchase worthy. If you are an Underworld fan, I think there's a great chance that you're gonna love this movie. If you are just a casual fan, you might not like it. As a matter of fact, I went to this with my son, who is kind of a casual Underworld fan. He didn't like this at all. So take that with a grain of salt. But personally, I loved it. Now, we're gonna get into some spoiler talk. Let's go ahead and talk about those twists that I was mentioning. So if you haven't seen Underworld Blood Wars, I would get out of here. First thing I want to talk about is the covens, the Old World Coven and the Nordic Coven, and how the Old World Coven was just really cutthroat. They wanted power, so much so that they even killed Thomas, who was David's father. And then also you got this sort of love story between Marius and one of the vampires. This harkens back to the first Underworld, which was a nice twist. Was it really needed? And it did play into the ultimate motivations of Marius in the end of the movie. And I love the end of this movie when, you know, all the chips fall and you are left with 3 new elders, one of them being Selene, which was really awesome. And it left it wide open for another movie. And plus we saw Selene's daughter Eve walking up to her the last scene in the movie. So a lot of really cool stuff in this movie, actually. And then also we find out that Michael is actually killed by Marius. And so that's why Marius took on the form of this kind of advanced type of lichen. And I thought that fight between Marius and Selene at the end was just really cool. She freaking rips out his spine out of his back. So that's it, guys. What are your thoughts on Underworld Blood Wars? Looking forward to hearing them. Also, I'd like to thank a good friend of mine, Chris Nofo, who actually hooked me up with a free movie ticket to see Underworld Blood Wars. Thank you so much, Chris. Also, be sure to become a member of my Killer Flicks page where we talk horror all day, every day. If you look down below, you can see all my social media links. Also, support Drumdums. Check out my Patreon page. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and Drumdum out.